The grand end-of-the-century Great Exhibition of London. Surely there is not a soul who has failed to hear of it. Wondrous new works of culture and industry from every corner of the globe had converged on Hyde Park, welcoming over 50 million visitors. The last great hurrah of this century. Astonished and delighted people of all nations, and ended on a note of resounding success. But as regards to the terrible catastrophe that occurred during the festivities, very few are aware my friend Mr. Herlock Sholmes had a hand in unraveling the matter. For from the shadows, it was he who earnestly unearthed the facts of the case. And like the centerpiece of the great exhibition, which rose high into the skies of Hyde Park, Sholmes's brilliant deductions, as clear and lofty as the crystal tower itself, brought the truth to light.
We're here at the showground of the Great Exhibition, which is absolutely packed with people. The weather is unusually fine, and we're about to witness a most extraordinary scientific experiment.
Oh boy. What a nerd.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 20th century will see steam engines and electrical power dominate the world. Horse-drawn carts will give way to the motor car. Ships will sprout wings and take to the skies. And today, we showcase even more advanced technology. A glimpse into the future. A world first. A demonstration of my super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine!
What the fuck? He's made a death ray.
Will literally be disassembled by a pulse of high voltage electricity and beamed to another location.
Pardon me? What the fuck are you doing?
Whereupon his body will be reassembled by a series of complex calculations exactly as it was before.
I feel like this is not what's gonna happen. Rest in peace. We'll always remember you, whatever your name is. What a fucking loser. What a dweeb.
In but a few moments from now, this gentleman will, in the blink of an eye, complete an incredible journey through the air. To arrive an instant later on the Crystal Tower behind you!
Man, science looks difficult.
Yes! 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 Yes!
Uh-oh.
Please! That's not what I wanted!
Lads, I think I might know who the victim and the defendant are. Runo, are you listening? Oh, sorry. What was that, Iris? What's the matter with you? You've been miles away all morning. Didn't you like what I cooked for breakfast? No, that's not it at all. What we were talking about again? Today's paper, it's full of news about the Great Exhibition. Ah, yes, the Great Exhibition. I'd like to go sometime. You're really not your usual self today. You seem very down. Don't you agree, Hurley? Did you say something, Iris? Oh gosh, you're even more down. When did you arrive, Mr. Naruhodo? I've been here for about half an hour. We had breakfast together. What? Why didn't you mention it before? I thought you might have known I was here. You know, because breakfast? Iris is quite right. You've been clearly lacking in vim, so much so that I didn't notice your presence. Thanks. Of course, I could deduce the reason perfectly well from some simple observations. What? Let's see. Yes, for example, your tousled hair this morning, with all its unruly spikes. Clearly, it can be deduced, therefore, that... Let me stop you there, Sholmes, because I think I see where this is going. My hair always looks like this. It always has, ever since we met. Oh, really? How interesting. It just doesn't look like a haircut as such, I suppose. Thanks. It crossed my mind recently that it's been 6 months now. 6 months. Since I was forbidden from working in court, so I've been wondering how much longer I'm going to be banned. Oh, well, that would explain why you seem rather glum. Don't you agree, Hurley? Did you say something, Iris? Back to moping. Holmes did actually do that a lot, but, I feel like they might not go with the fact that he usually did heroin to keep himself busy. What's the matter with Sholmes today? Was it heroin? Pretty sure it was heroin. He seems even more down in the dumps than me. I know, and the Great Exhibition has opened. You'd think he'd be excited. Well, why don't we all go see it together? I want to! Of course I do, but I can't. Not for the time being. Why not? Why not? Why not? Because I'm a great detective, after all. So you're embroiled in some case you can't be distracted from? I don't remember hearing you're working on a case, Hurley. I suppose I should try to find out what's going on. Half a year ago now, I took on the defense of a young girl in a trial heard at the Old Bailey. What at first seemed like a simple case of murder that took place in a pawnbrokery turned out to be one part of a more far-reaching plot. During the course of the trial, it was found I have made an unavoidable, yet at the same time unforgivable mistake. Words failed me. Deplorable. Naruhodo. Yes, Lord. I will decide your fate later. Of course, Lord. In the end, I had my right to represent people in court revoked. I was told I'd have to spend my time in research and study, so that's what I've been doing. You have, haven't you, Runa? Reading all those big fat tomes about British law up in your room and the notes about Sholmes' old cases. Brewing Iris's special blends of tea, fetching my daily bread. You've become something of a manservant around here. Start on the silverwork next, Master Naruhodo. Well, I'm thinking of going to ask the powers that be to reconsider, specifically Lord Strongheart at the British Supreme Court. Lord Strongheart? Ah, the delightful Lord Chief Justice. Not my favorite fellow. He's not mine either, but he's the one I have to talk to. He's the only one who can grant permission for me to start working again. I came to Britain to become the best lawyer I could, and I can't do that just sitting around. The whole of London has been swept up in this great exhibition, hasn't it? The most advanced science, the great modern technology, the finest works of art and feats of engineering. For the next 6 months, our capital will be showcasing these things, and the world will be watching. Oh, do you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to look down on London from one of those lovely balloons. Look down on? Do you mean those things? Fly? Yes, of course! They fly high in the sky and don't even need wings. All you need is hot air. But how? How does hot air have anything to do with flying? It makes no sense. I can't understand it at all. That's because a lot of the new scientific discoveries, most people can't understand them at first. But in 100 years' time, all these things will be just be common knowledge. I suppose they might be. Mind you, some of the science being demonstrated seems very questionable. Something went wrong on the open exhibition stage yesterday, apparently. There was a huge explosion. Still, I wish I'd seen it, though. I'd love to see how bad some of these scam experiments really are, says the innocent 10-year-old girl. See here! Every page of this paper carries some article or other about the Great Exhibition. But the brighter things shine, the darker the shadows that are cast behind them. Personally, I find myself drawn to the darkness, to the impenetrable. That is my proper atmosphere. Fucking relax, dude. Cool. Shadows cast behind. Is that a metaphorical way of referring to the back of the page? Bam, bam, bam. Reveal it to me. Lost cat! This can't stand. So many gloomy reports about the exhibition. Other than this rather gloomy one, that is. Wait, what? What's the matter, Runo? The Reaper attacked. What? That's Lord Von Zykes. That must be what Sholmes was talking about. Does he have any more? What happened to Zykes? Did he get attacked, or is he doing the attacking? It says in the paper Van Zykes was attacked. That's terrible. You know the legend of the Reaper of the Bailey, of course, don't you? Only too well, in fact. Yes. They say if the Reaper is the prosecutor, there's no salvation for whoever's in the dock. Even if they are found not guilty. Once the Reaper has someone in his sights one way or another, their time will be short. London's finest rogues always find ways around the law. They'll stop at nothing to secure an acquittal at trial. Falsifying evidence, paying sham witnesses, threatening jurors, bribing judges. But even such devious tactics as these cannot save them from the hand of the Reaper. As you've experienced yourself, haven't you, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, I've seen the Reaper's retribution at work. Many of those criminal rogues are reckless and quite unafraid to die. If a leader among their fraternity is seen to have been taken by the Reaper, retaliation like this does occur. Really, the capital has a never-ending supply of such scoundrels. So, do you mean Van Zykes has been attacked like this before? This isn't the first time? He's quite an accomplished combatant, you know. He doesn't take these attacks lying down. Although, it seems that his assailants were armed with guns this time. Oh my goodness, is he alright then? My dear fellow, how on earth would I know? Well, in the article it says, as to what of Lord Van Zykes and his condition, all will be revealed in tomorrow morning's edition. Ah, I see. Well, we shall have to be patient then. No, I can't wait. In that case, you shall have to inquire with somebody in the know. But who? Strongheart, perhaps? My son, what are you doing now? What are you doing? You better not knock that off. I know you're a cat, like it's what you do, but don't. Are you investigating a particularly tricky case, Sholmes? You could say that, I suppose. Nothing more to add, that's not like you. What sort of case is it? Shh! Quiet, Mr. Naruhodo. We must not discuss it here. You never know who might be listening. You're acting very strange, Hurley. What do you mean, Iris? Well, usually, the more mysterious and complicated a case is, the better Hurley's mood. Ah! Is it really a case that's bothering you? Iris, please, you mustn't exercise your astute powers of observation and deduction on me without invitation. Remember what I always say. Put yourself in the shoes of the individual about whom you are making deductions. I don't believe you've ever said this. You say that, do you? You, Sholmes. Never mind. Once I've had a cup of tea, I must make my way to the crime scene. That was a deep sigh. Well, I must be leaving now. Yes, understood. See you later, Sholmes. Ha! You really are a shameful liar sometimes, my dear fellow. What? You seek to put me off guard and follow me, don't you? Well, you would be wasting your time. The thought hadn't crossed my mind, but now I'm wondering. Well then, see you later indeed. Listen to him. He's still laughing on his way out. Bruh, what are you wearing? Alright, Runo, let's get going. Iris, what are you doing? Wait, what are you wearing? I've got changed to go to the great exhibition. You're going to take me. What? But I was just about to go to the Supreme Court. Oh, well that sounds fun too. You're going to take me there then. Alright, fine. Just lower the weapon. Of course, and after the Supreme Court, then we'll go to the great exhibition. Alright, let's make a move. It's been about 6 months since I was last here, but some things never change, like the sense of foreboding. Well, you seem to be having a good time here. Doesn't seem to be bothering Iris at all. She's happily reading over there. Oh, I love this place. I always find so many interesting books. Of course, I was forgetting that you've been here before. The time we came 6 months ago. Yes, yes, we remember. Oh, Lord Strongheart. I trust you've been keeping well. Let's see. Since you arrived and requested an audience, it's been 4 hours, 32 minutes, and 26 seconds. I've kept you waiting a while. My apologies. Oh, no, not at all. I like nothing more than standing around, staring into space. Good to know. Good to know that it doesn't appear to bother him. Male Strongheart, Lord Chief Justice of London. He's the man who allowed me to start practicing as a defense lawyer. You need only savor the air for a moment in this grand office to understand his preeminent status. As you will be aware, the Great Exhibition of London is now underway at last. We're extremely busy as a result, policing the grounds, guarding the new technologies, dealing with petty crime. And furthermore, as of next month, we shall open the International Forensic Science Symposium. Oh, I've not heard about that. Investigating authorities from over 40 countries around the globe will be taking part, including from your own land. Forensic science is the future. The world must embrace it. As we're the hosting nation, I have much to do, and it is my highest priority. If others must wait for my attention as a result, so be it. Well, it's nice to know where I stand. So, you wish to consult with me? Of course, I can very well imagine what this is about. Ah, well, thanks for agreeing. I want to be allowed to start working again. That's what brought me here. But actually, there's something else playing on my mind. Bruno, take a deep breath and come out with it. I actually came here to ask for your permission. Go on. 6 months ago, my right to work as a lawyer was revoked, and I was told to spend my time studying. Obviously, I'm very sorry for what happened, but the thing is, it made me understand what it really means to defend somebody under the rules of a foreign justice system. And I desperately want to have another go. Please permit me to enter the courtroom again. Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? I'm sure you haven't forgotten your position here, have you? At best, you are a substitute for your compatriots. This was never your intended role. Well, that's true. The Japanese government actually sent my best friend Cosma here. He was so determined to bring change. That was his calling. Yes, we remember. Mr. Asogi was my best friend, you see. That's why I can't leave it unfinished. I have to fulfill his calling for him. His calling, you say. Has it never occurred to you that perhaps you know nothing of his true calling? Sorry? The mission with which that young law student was charged. What do you suppose it really was? What do you mean, mission? Never mind. I've read all the reports you've submitted over the past 6 months. It's clear to me you regret your actions and have been studiously obeying your revised instructions. Do you mean? As of this moment, I reinstate your license to practice law here in Great Britain. You'll regret this when we get to the last case. Thank you so much. That's wonderful news, Runa. In fact, I believe I have the perfect case to mark your comeback. A curious affair. You'll consider it, I hope. Of course, please tell me more. You described it as a curious affair? Yes, that's right. I believe it was reported in the press. As you're aware, there was a serious accident at the Great Exhibition yesterday. Oh, no. Oh, yes, I read about it. A professor from Germany tried to carry out a crazy experiment. Let me see, how is it described? Super high voltage instantaneous kinesis, I think? Instantaneous kinesis, as in moving things with a click of the finger? That's right! It's just what my herbal blend needs, a dash of devil-may-care. Whatever the serious accident was exactly, it's clearly captured Iris's imagination. It's an unfortunate business. A large explosion engulfed the public experimentation stage and a man lost his life. A certain Mr. Odie Asman. Odie Asman? I don't know. An investor and well-known figure in society. A large explosion. A man died. The man responsible for the experiment was Professor Albert Harebrain. I get that one, you know. He was detained immediately after the incident and is due to appear in court tomorrow. On the charge of murder. What? Murder? If you intend to take on his defense, you should hurry to meet with him at the prison. There is very little time left for you to carry out any kind of investigation. The Great Exhibition, a science experiment gone wrong, and murder, I feel out of my depth before I've even started. We should go to the prison straight away then, and try to meet with this German professor. Definitely. Ah yes, one more thing about the case. There's a connection with our mutual acquaintance, the Reaper. Oh, Van Zykes? How? Hold on, we gotta thrust the paper. Oh, that reminds me, have you seen this? The reports of the overwhelming success of the Great Exhibition, of course. No, not that. The story on the back. What story? The Reaper attacked. Ah, that. You've enjoyed some victories in court against my #1 prosecutor, have you not? Poor Mr. Reaper. What happened to him? He wasn't killed, was he? There's no need for concern. Von Zykes would not be so easily dispatched, I assure you. Can you tell us what happened? I'd love to know. Very well. If it interests you. It does. Fortunately, Lord Von Zykes emerged from the attack unscathed. Street ruffians are no match for that man. He's a very capable fighter. But that's incredible. They were armed with guns. Why was he attacked, though? Do we know? It's related to the events that occurred a month ago. A leader of one of the capital criminals organizations was indicted and prosecuted by Von Zykes. But the man was acquitted. I've no doubt large sums of money were involved behind the scenes. Large sums of money? A deplorable situation. Members of the jury were bribed, it seems. However, despite winning his freedom, the man in question met a dramatic end yesterday. You're not suggesting that was the work of the Reaper, surely? The victim's henchmen certainly seem to think so. He was a man by the name of Asman, Mr. Odie Asman. Did you just say Asman? That's the man who died in the explosion. Yes, known publicly as an investor, but in reality, the head of a significant criminal organization. Unbelievable. Very believable. Did you see that dude? He also looked like a JoJo's character. I wonder, could I ask you something, Strongheart? Try me. Why do you use Von Zykes as a prosecutor? All the criminals who manage to get off in court then meet with mysterious ends. And fearful of that fate, they seek to strike at Von Zykes first. I know there's no evidence he actually is the Reaper in that sense, but still, something's clearly going on. I have Von Zykes work for the prosecution service for 2 reasons. Firstly, the man is the best prosecutor in the capital, bar none. And secondly, any deaths of criminals that have occurred outside the courtroom following his trials are nothing to do with him. But that doesn't make sense. How can you explain the way so many die? Von Zykes may have earned himself the moniker of the Reaper, but he is no killer. So he will continue to prosecute on behalf of the Crown. Unless he wishes otherwise, of course. All sorts of conferences have been taking place around the world to coincide with the Great Exhibition, and next month the largest and most important of them all will take place at last. The International Forensic Science Symposium. It does seem as though criminal investigation needs to embrace scientific methods, doesn't it? Exactly. London, the global epicenter of culture, science, and wealth, now has a population exceeding 6 million. Sadly, crime in the capital is growing at a similarly startling rate. So it's imperative that we use the latest scientific methods to investigate and resolve cases as efficiently as possible. Which is what's known as forensic science, isn't it? Exactly. The future of policing. Regrettably, however, Britain is currently dragging its feet when it comes to the adoption of forensic methods. Oh dear, that's alarming. Exactly. It's extremely alarming. If I were Her Majesty's Attorney General, you can be sure the numbers of crimes committed and resolved in London would be very different to the current figures. And I can cite 12 solid arguments and 223 individual reasons to support my claim. Sorry? By way of apology for keeping you waiting earlier, I shall give you every detail. I shall detail every one now. What? Oh, how fascinating. It all began 15 years ago. Lord help us. And that more or less sums up my feelings on the matter, in the simplest terms, of course. Essentially, to formally establish a forensic investigation division within Scotland Yard. That is my mission. Oh, right, yes, that's, wonderful. Exactly. Wonderful is precisely what it will be. Iris isn't paying attention at all. Oh, is it over? Did you learn anything useful? I actually drifted off for the most part. He's surprisingly ardent about forensic science. Well, I must be leaving for my next engagement. I'm already 11 hours and 16 minutes late. My colleagues may be starting to fidget. 11 hours late? That's quite something. That meeting had already started when I arrived back here for this engagement with you. So lateness was inevitable. Time stops for no man. I'm sure it stopped for me during those 12 solid arguments, and 223 reasons. Oh yes, where would I find Von Zykes now? I would assume he's out his office. Right, I'll go ask him about the attack in person. Away with you now. I'm leaving Professor Harebrain's defense entirely in your hands. Of course, yes, thank you very much. We did it, team. Let's make a move. I want to go see Von Zykes first. Yep, this looks like Von Zykes' office. What's going on with this? Actually, this isn't much better. Oh, so this is the legendary Reaper's office. Yes, it appears so. Ugh, it sends a chill down your spine, doesn't it? What an amazingly deathly atmosphere. Oh, is that? That hooded figure was so still I hadn't noticed his or her presence. I wonder who it is. What are you doing here? He's as unwelcoming as I thought he'd be. Actually, maybe even more so. Oh, I'm glad to see you're well. I am. So, who's the person over by the wall being punished or something? No punishment is taking place here. Oh. That's my apprentice, and he's sitting there of his own free will. I didn't know you had an apprentice. It must be the same person who was pictured in the newspaper. He's very able in combat, a requisite skill for anyone under my tutelage. Are you referring to the attack on the Reaper that was reported in the papers? The Reaper? I'd be more interested to know the Reaper's true identity myself. Assuming, that is, such a fabled fiend genuinely inhabits our great courtrooms. What do you mean by what you said before? If you'd like to know the Reaper's true identity, does that mean... I'm a crown prosecutor and a mortal like any other. I'm no demigod. But they all died, haven't they? I mean, the people you've prosecuted, whether or not trial ended in a conviction or an acquittal. Those I prosecute are the vilest wretches of our society. People who, without question, deserve to be found guilty. The world is a better place without them. But that's not true of Natsume, for example. He wasn't a vile wretch. Nor was Ginny, in fact. She's ever so hardworking. I can't deny, since I encountered you, things have taken a turn. But the point is this. If any of those vile wretches that escaped justice subsequently died in mysterious circumstances, it was at the hand of their own kind. It's not my work. I mean, I didn't suspect you, but I do suspect Strongheart, and maybe your apprentice now. Lord Strongheart said the same. He believes you're not involved in any way. But you were attacked by those ruffians. The fact is, since people started to call me the Reaper of the Bailey, the number of serious crimes in the capital has dropped substantially. Oh, it would appear that even the most hardened criminals can be made fearful for their lives. Do you mean to say... I mean to say that if my pseudonym serves a useful purpose, I adopt it gladly and with honor. But it's putting you in danger. You could be killed. If that is my fate, let God decide. Van Zanks. Lord Strongheart said the assault last night was some sort of revenge attack? True. Carried out by the henchmen of Odie Asmon's criminal organization. The investigation meant their arrests were imminent. Presumably some hoped to kill me before that happened. Odie Asmon. He always masqueraded as one of London's most powerful financiers, a global investor. But his enormous wealth came to him by underhand means via his criminal activities. And he used that money to buy himself a verdict of not guilty, didn't he? Being prosecuted by you, Mr. Reaper. But the man got his comeuppance in the end. Yesterday, in fact, in extraordinary circumstances, it was a most unusual cause of death. I know that. It was a super high-voltage instantaneous kinesis gone wrong. Mr. Asmon died when the demonstration ended in an enormous explosion. Correct. And you think I have some kind of divine ability to cause an accident like that to happen, do you? Well, no, that does seem far-fetched. If this man really is the fabled Reaper, then he has to be innocent of this particular death, at least. It's strange how this worked out, isn't it, Runo? I mean, with you taking on Professor's defense for the trial tomorrow. What? You're going to be defending him? Oh, yes, that's right. I thought though I barely know the man's name yet. Albert. Albert Harebrain. That's right. Do you know him? Of course. He's a contemporary of mine. We were at university together. You're... what? He has friends? Unbelievable. I'd understood Professor Harebrain was from Germany, though. Harebrain's from a respectable British family. After graduating from the University of London, he moved to Germany to carry out research, that's all. So you were students together. I was in the Faculty of Law, of course, and he in Science, so our paths rarely crossed. But curiously, we got along, though I've not met him since my university days. I certainly didn't expect our next encounter to take this form. And with you of all people representing him. Ugh, if only I could only if I make it out of the office alive. He's actually been charged with murder, it seems. Yes, I know, because the prosecution will be handled by me. What a surprise! Whoa, let's all give a shocked reaction. By you? But you made it sound as if you and the professor had been friends. We are friends, it's true. Then why would you do this? If the Reaper is the prosecutor, there's nothing anyone can do to save him. What's Lord Van Zykes thinking? Hey, hey, what you got over here? Who's this guy? Is this a picture of you? That portrait really dominates the room, doesn't it? It's a very majestic outfit and pose, but sadly, whoever painted it didn't do a very good job of capturing Von Zyke's facial features. Yes, you're right. I mean, it's not far off, but the artist has exaggerated his subject's handsomeness, I think. That's extremely rude. That reminds me. I heard Emperor Napoleon of France ordered artists to make him look more attractive when they painted him. How vain. That's really not an attractive quality in a person, is it? That portrait does not depict me. Surely that's immediately obvious. Oh, then who is it? Wanna talk about it? Okay. It really looks like a punishment to me. I've never seen someone sitting like that before. He hasn't moved a muscle since we arrived. Do you think perhaps he's dead? If he was dead, Runo, he wouldn't be sitting up, would he? Well, anyway, dead or alive, he's not overly approachable, is he? I don't think he's going to talk to us. He's not dead. Good talk. What's this? Alright, not of importance. No, don't do that. Hold on. My man's got some bats. Oh, Jesus Christ. Wow, they were bats. Yes, the Reaper's familiars, I expect. But what about the mute man in the dark cloak? I thought he was the familiar. Just not the flying kind. He must be a dear friend of Reaper, then. I think the familiar idea is more likely. Scary, though, either way. Alright. Well, Von Zykes, it's been a pleasure seeing you. Well, maybe I should show him the pit. Will you have anything to say about this? Oh, he does. Von Zykes, about the article in the paper. Ah, yes, it seems there was a reporter nearby when that little skirmish took place. I had no idea I'd been photographed. It was careless of me. It looks as though it was taken right after the people who attacked you had run away, though. Rest assured, the police have arrived, have already apprehended every last one of them. But there's someone else fighting alongside you. And I think it's the same person sitting over there, isn't it? As I mentioned already, he's my apprentice. Perhaps you could tell us a bit about him? Yeah. He's in my tutelage to become a prosecutor. You could say he's my apprentice, I suppose. Ah, like you are to Hurley then, Runo. I don't remember doing that. He's currently compiling a report about last night's attack. It looks like he's wearing some kind of mask? On Lord Strongheart's orders. Nobody knows the man's face, or indeed his identity. But why would you agree to take on such a clearly suspicious individual? Lord Strongheart's orders again. He's not one for meaningless follies. There will be a good reason for his actions. I hope you're right. Oh my god, he looks sinister as fuck. What's going on here? The task is complete. Good. In that case, you can collate all the briefs. Nice to meet you. Goodbye. Back to work again. That was really strange, though. I've never met the man before. I didn't even know he existed, and yet, somehow, it didn't feel like our first encounter. Don't bother trying to converse with him. He says nothing to anybody from outside this office. Lord Strongheart has strictly forbidden it. Oh, I see. Why are you so interested in my apprentice, anyway? Oh, no, I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to. The way he stood there so casually, yet with that flawless posture. It couldn't be. Suspicious. Ah, yes, there's something I've been meaning to ask you. Oh, what's that? That Nipponese man, is he faring well? Sorry? The one arrested twice in succession 6 months ago, with the stoop, and the mustache, and the jitters. Ah, Natsume, you mean? I'm not sure he'd be very pleased to find out you identified him from that list, Runo. He's fine, thank you. In fact, I received a letter from him by international post the other day. I see. Well, I think we can end our discussion there, don't you? There's little time left before tomorrow's trial. I advise you to spend it investigating the case. Yes, thank you for the advice, and the conversation. I can't believe he's asking after Soseki, after a Nipponese. I'm not sure whether to feel happy or worried. I never imagined that the Reaper would be friends with a mad scientist, did you? Isn't that a turnip for the books? A mad scientist? Oh, you mean Professor Hairbrain? Yes, it might be worth quizzing the professor about his relationship. Alright, goodbye. The warden said cell 11. That's this one. Oh, there's somebody curled up in a ball at the back. What's his name again? Professor Albert Hairbrain, wasn't it? Excuse me, Professor Hairbrain. Alright, am I gonna do a nerd voice the entire time this guy's speaking? That sounds like a lot of effort.
Who are you?
I'm Ryunosuke Naruhodo. I'm a defense...
A lawyer?
Was it something I said?
A lawyer, you say? Would you be here about the experiment? Are you going to defend my hypothesis?
Your hypothesis? Sorry, I don't...
Yesterday's demonstration. That magnificent demonstration was. It was an out-and-out success by anyone's calculations. But despite that, no one listens. No lawyer believes in the science when it's explained. They all leave at high velocity.
Now's probably not a good time to mention that your zeal made my concentration leave for a while, too. Let's go. You mentioned the demonstration. The papers have called it a spectacular failure. After all, a man died in the explosion, didn't he? Sorry, I'm looking for something to sip. I've been talking for like 3 hours. I'm ready to lawyer.
Yes, you could interpret the results that way if you really wanted to. Well, I suppose in the strictest sense, the experiment was a failure, but at the same time, it was a great success.
You've lost me.
I saw it with my own eyes, right there in front of me. Mr. Asman was spontaneously disassembled. Until then, everything was going exactly as my calculations had predicted. At that point, he should have been beamed to the Crystal Tower by instantaneous kinesis. However,
the machine exploded and Asman in fact perished.
Yes, I can't deny that part of the experiment was a failure.
So what you're really saying is the large explosion that killed Asman was an accident, correct? But the Bigwoods had you arrested on suspicion of murder.
I was responsible for the man's death. That's the immutable truth here. And for that, I wish to be punished at once. But murder? Never in a million years. It was an accident. Simply an accident.
I see. Hurley and I were talking this morning, you know. He said the situation would change completely depending on whether it was treated as an accident or murder. How exactly? Well, if it really was an accident, then the professor's machine would be kept in protective custody. On what grounds?
Yes. It's a newly established here in Britain. The Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act.
That one passed me by. But if the case is treated as murder, then...
They'll say my machine was the murder weapon, and they'll be able to pore over it as much as they like. If they examine it in detail, they'll find out how it's made, and then they'll be able to copy my idea. My precious hypothesis will be stolen. The machine must be protected at all costs. That's why it's imperative this whole incident is shown to have been an accident in tomorrow's trial.
I see now. So, in short, there was a terrible accident yesterday.
Yes, or rather, no. The devil is in the details. Strictly speaking, there was a terrible explosion.
Sounds the same to me. You were demonstrating super high voltage instantaneous kinesis, weren't you? How fascinating.
Humans, like all matter, are made up of particles that are held together by electrical bonds. So, it must be possible using a sufficiently high voltage to break those bonds and beam the particles through space. That's it in a nutshell. That's my idea, you see. That's my amazing hypothesis.
Gosh, that's unimaginably high-level science.
Oh, but dare to imagine it. Dare to dream of such incredible technology. Just think, one moment I could be here in this cell, and the next, I could be at the Great Exhibition again.
Well, yes, that would be incredible.
And the next, in the mere blink of an eye, I could be at the Great Parisian Theater, say. The possibilities are endless, the whole of our vast planet within our reach.
So no more hiding in wardrobes on rocky seas? I don't really see it like that. What do you mean? Well, if you could travel anywhere in the world instantly, the planet wouldn't really seem vast anymore, would it? I think it would feel like it had shrunk.
My word, that's exactly right. What are the implications? What does this mean?
Oops, that's got Professor Hairbrain really worried by the look of it. Clearly this is yet another case of just because you can doesn't mean you should. We definitely should, in fact, develop teleportation. Though I'd probably never use one in my life. I've always looked at the like teleporters in Star Trek and been like, they die every time they go through one of those teleporters.
My point is, my calculations are flawless. The science works, but without a practical demonstration, it means nothing. And that's always the fly in the ointment.
Because practical demonstrations cost a lot of money that young scientists like you don't have.
That's exactly it, yes.
Hurley's always complaining about it. He says the government should invest more in science.
Well, anyway, I bumped into him at the right time. I met the well-known investor, Mr. Asman.
The victim who died in yesterday's terrible accident, you mean? The full name of the man who died was Mr. Odie Osmond, wasn't it? What exactly was your relationship with the man?
He first visited me in my laboratory in Germany a year ago now. He said he wanted to invest in my immaculate hypothesis. I thanked my lucky stars.
I see, so you hadn't really known each other until then. Money for scientific research. I'm so envious.
As far as I was concerned, the man was an angel.
Oh, really?
An archangel, even. He was prepared to fund a practical demonstration of my hypothesis for presentation at the Great Exhibition. And if that went well, I could expect additional financial support for my research from the British government. And Mr. Asman provided me with money and an exceptional engineer. He produced a machine to my precise specifications.
But then your dreams were blown to dust.
As you can see, I owed everything to Mr. Asman. I would never, ever have thought of taking the man's life.
Well, he seems genuine enough. I don't think he's lying. I understand Lord Von Zykes is a friend of yours from university.
Yes, that's right. He was studying law whilst I was studying science.
What was he like back then?
A good question. Unassuming, gentlemanly, an all-round nice fellow, really.
Sorry, I think you misheard me. I'm talking about the cold-hearted, merciless prosecutor, Baron Von Zykes. I never really interpreted him as being either of those things. What was he like when he was in university? Talk about a leading question, Runo.
As I said, unassuming and extremely pleasant gentleman. After all, he is the little darling of the Von Zykes family, with all its great aristocratic origins.
I didn't realize he had such noble blood. Little darling.
It was a bit of a shock when I came back to Britain and learned of what he'd become. The Reaper of the Bailey, no less.
Yes, that's right.
I did hear, though, that there was a very big event in his life that completely changed him after graduation.
Really? What sort of event?
I'm sorry. But I don't know anymore. I wasn't in the country at the time. I was in Germany.
Oh, yes, of course. If he's heard all about the Reaper, I really don't have the heart to tell him von Zykes will be the prosecutor. I mean, he's gonna find out. So, Professor, let me just make absolutely sure I understood you. The huge explosion yesterday was an accident. You had no intent to harm the victim, who was the sole investor in your work.
As correct as 2 squared is 4, I swear it. Yes, it's true, the man perished in a machine of my invention. So I know I'm far from blameless in all of this. I would never use my discoveries, my inventions, to take a man's life, not in a centillion years. I'm a man of science. It's all I know. You have to believe me, please. Do you believe me? Do you believe in my hypothesis? Science is the pursuit of truth, you know. I've always believed that all my life.
I'm afraid I don't know much about science, or your theories, but I do believe you, and I will fight to prove your innocence with all my might. I'm a man of the law, it's all I know, you have to believe me, please.
When I went to live in Germany after I graduated, I learned something very important. Nationality, class, lineage, none of that matters. As long as you try your hardest, you can achieve anything.
Thank you for that, Professor.
And thank you in advance for defending me tomorrow in court.
All right, Runo. It's time to visit the Great Exhibition. Sorry? Well, that's where the incident happened, isn't it? Yes, I suppose that's true. Time to investigate. All right, bye. Ugh. The showgrounds are a little too big for my liking. We've been walking around in dense crowds for 2 hours, and I felt myself swooning 3 times. There are a lot of people, aren't there? I've almost been trodden on 3 times, too. Be careful, won't you, Iris? Don't let go of my hand. How cute. We've finally made it through the throngs, though, by the look of it. Here we are, underneath the public experiment. Although I do have to wonder, actually, how these people are not noticing this. Where the explosion happened yesterday. Good heavens. What's that? I can hear voices from up on the stage. It sounds like an argument.
Right, I've had it with you this time. I'm warning you, I'll arrest you in a minute. Oh yeah, go on then, Spectre. Give it a shot. You ain't got no evidence and you know it.
Wait, I know those voices.
You got a cheeky little mouth on you, young lady, but a night in the cells will teach you some manners. Just try it, I dare you, if you want that bag of chips rammed down your throat.
Yoo-hoo, Gregsy, what are you doing up there?
It's you. Here, your ladyship. How are you, your ladyship? I do hope you're doing well, your ladyship.
Does that make her 3 times the lady?
I'm not well at all. I'm far too busy everywhere.
I wanted to ride in a balloon, but there was a 3-hour queue.
Unbelievable. I'll go have a word for you at once, your ladyship. You'll be flying high as a kite in no time once I pull some strings for you.
Tobias Gregson, an inspector at Scotland Yard. Until recently, he was suspended from duty, but it would appear he's back now. He's actually quite well known, appearing as he does in the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, and for that reason, he can't say a word wrong to the story's author. But there are limits, surely, or there should be.
Watch it, sunshine.
Sorry.
What gives them? Don't tell me you're the one on this case.
Yes, I'm acting for the defense. So we're here to investigate.
Dear me, that's the situation, is it?
Is it really that troubling?
A measly 5 bob. Is that all you've got? You're a lawyer, ain't ya? You could stand to carry a bit more copper around in your pockets, Mr. Narrowholder.
What? Hey, that's my last bit of spending money.
You can't have it back, but you can have it back, but I have to charge you for the bother. 3 bob.
This is Gina Lestrade, a pickpocket or diver, born and bred in East End. In the case that led to my suspension 6 months ago, this is the young girl I was defending in court.
What's your problem, Odo? Diver, pickpocket, what's with all the name calling? You want a bag of chips rammed down your throat and all, do you?
I thought you were proud to be a diver. You were just arguing with Inspector Gregson, weren't you? I assumed you'd been up to your usual tricks.
That ain't no way to talk to a lady, Odo. Half a year's a long time. People can change. I'm an apprentice now, learning to be a Scotland Yard detective. Woo!
Nice.
So you'll have to call me what everyone else does. It's Inspector Lestrade now.
Inspector? That badge is homemade, surely.
The inspector part isn't entirely accurate. No one calls her that. For what it's worth, anyway, investigating is off the cards for all of us.
What's that supposed to mean?
Right, well, I'll be back up top. You hold the fort down here, alright? Right, sir.
This raises a lot of questions. It was 8 months ago now that I first encountered Gina. At the time, she was living in the East End with other orphans. She helped all of them survive by pickpocketing, but murder, you know.
I had a lot of time to think in prison. I realised I couldn't go on like I was. The diving weren't working out.
Oh, I'm so pleased to hear it, Ginny. Well done. So, you went from being a pickpocket to detective?
You got it? Good, innit? Inspector Lestrade. Sounds like something out of a book, don't it?
It sure does. Talk about a sea change.
Then there's Iris's old man to think about.
Iris's father, you mean?
Yeah, I promised her, didn't I? I said I'd get all the police forces around the world to pull out all the stops looking for him.
Just a small promise then, nothing serious. Oh, Ginny, you're so sweet. We're gonna have to tell her one of these days.
So anyway, that's how I came to be. I had to go at the test for the Scotland Yard. Only trouble is I don't read so well, do I?
Just a small problem, nothing serious. And that's when Hurley approached Gregsy and asked for help. So the inspector said he'd take full responsibility for Gina and made her a sort of apprentice. That's very strange. That's a very magnanimous of Inspector Gregson, and brave. Well, you know Hurley, he enjoys finding ways to make people do what he wants. That would explain it. The great detective likes digging for dirt.
So, long and short of it is, if you got questions about the case, you can ask Inspector Lestrade.
Alright then, Inspector. Actually, there's still a big mystery surrounding Gina, isn't there? Oh, what, Bruno, what? Well, 6 months ago, Gina was the defendant in a trial by the Reaper. A trial in which she was found not guilty, and yet she is still...
Come on, you're not still on about that, are you? It's the Legend of the Reaper or whatever it's called. Cool, you don't half worry, Oda.
If I didn't half worry, there wouldn't be a whole lot of you left.
It's like I told you before, innit? The Reaper's got kinda like him upstairs, so he knows what I'm like on the inside, and I ain't done nothing wrong.
Nothing wrong might be stretching. What about Natsume in Japan? He's perfectly fine, isn't he? Well, that's true. Perhaps the Reaper is more discerning than I thought.
Exactly. So I ain't worried. I'm totally fine. Cool, it was out of this world, it was. The brainy bloke pulled a bunch of levers on his machine and suddenly he started billowing smoke. Then it just went pop. I ain't seen a better experiment here yet.
Sorry? You mean you saw it, Ginny, with your own eyes?
Yeah, of course. The boss is in charge here, ain't he? Keeping everything running smooth, I mean.
The boss being Gregson, I suppose. It's going to take some getting used to.
So all I have to say is that I'm on duty and I can do whatever I want to. Get this, I was up in one of them flying balloons when it happened, watching it from above.
That's probably going to end up being important later. Maybe I should join Scotland Yard too.
Yeah, do it. You know how to put the boss in his place already, right, Iris? You'd have no trouble at all.
Then it's settled. When do I start? No, you can't just join Scotland Yard. We'll see. Anyway, what I don't understand is this. If the machine exploded so spectacularly, how can Professor Brainy Brains still be claiming that his experiment was a success?
Oh, right. Well, it was a success in a way.
It was? How can it have been? So, this might seem like a stretch given we know absolutely nothing yet, but I'm gonna throw my prediction out at the start. Guy actually vanished before it exploded, and this is all an elaborate ruse to fake his own death. Surely after the whole machine blew up, no one could call it a success.
It's like I said, it did sort of work. I mean, yeah, there was a load of smoke and all that whopping great bang. But where do you think they found the victim's body, eh?
Oh, they did find the body. Okay.
In the Crystal Tower over there.
What? In the tower? Well, never mind. I guess that's me, Sham.
You can see for yourself, can't you? Up there above the scaffold.
Oh, were all the glasses broken?
Yeah, the cage what the victim got in to start with really did get beamed through the air or whatever and landed all the way over there. So you see, it did kind of work, didn't it?
What? I don't believe it. It's more of like a cannon arrangement, it looks like.
I mean, I don't get the ins and outs of it, but anything's possible, right? With science. Well, I tell you what, you can have this. It's a plan of the experiment they drew up at the yard.
Are you sure?
Yeah, go on. I had 3 bob off you before, so fair's fair.
I didn't actually give that yet, to you, did I? Now, let's have a gander at that. I see. Illuminating. Something Inspector Gregson seemed a little strange.
For what it's worth, anyway. Investigating's off the cards for all of us.
Yes, naughty old Gregsy ran off without explaining himself.
Oh, right, that. The boss said no one's allowed to investigate that weird machine what blew up.
Well, that's not fair. We're representing the defendant.
In that case, could you at least
tell us what you've learned from your investigations?
Nah, you're not getting it. We ain't allowed to investigate either.
Why?
What did the boss call them again? The forensic investigation team, I think. Anyway, apart from them lot, no one's allowed to lay finger on the scene. Bit funny, innit?
So even Scotland Yard's own detectives can't investigate. Yes, I've never heard something like that before.
I thought I could have a gander on the quiet, though, but the boss caught me at it. You probably heard him giving me an earful before them down there, didn't you? It's not bleeding fair.
I think you were giving him just as much of an earful as I remember it.
Yeah, well, sometimes I think it's all them chips what makes him so stubborn. You say something to him, Odo. Go on, see if you can't get through to him.
He's up on the platform above us, isn't he? Where the machine exploded. We can try, can't we, Bruno? Gregsy will listen to us. Well, first, let's poke around down here. What's this? Ah, it looks as though somebody's dropped something behind the tree. Dropped or hid. This is not a good hiding spot. Some sort of machine has exploded. This looks like a fucking crossbow. Maybe. It could have fallen from the platform above in the blast.
What's going on here?
Oh, nothing. I think I'll hang on to this, just in case. What's it do? Yeah, this is definitely a fucking crossbow by the look of it. Can I examine any part of it? Ah, there's some sort of lever here. Yep. What is this? It looks like a cross between a bow and a gun. I think it's probably used for the same thing too. Yep, thought so. Alright, well. Oh, I could examine it again. Hold on. Fuck. This groove here must be where the arrows are loaded, I suppose. So I was right, it's sort of a bow with an automatic firing mechanism. This would be perfect for someone like me who catches his ear with a bowstring two out of 3 times. In fact, if I had one of these, maybe I could have beaten Kazuma in Kyoto Archery Training. Looks like you wind this around in order to draw the bowstring back and create tension. You must be able to fire arrows with a huge amount of force using this device. In fact, I would imagine it's far more accurate and powerful than a Japanese longbow. Ugh, I really had no idea what I was picking up when I spotted this thing. Alright, that it? Alright. What's this? What's this down here? Oh, look, what's this? A ripped piece of cloth? It's not like any fabric I've seen before. It's very thick and stiff. It looks extremely durable. It's canvas, I think, with some sort of rubber backing. And the edges appear to be a bit charred as well. Maybe that means it has something to do with the explosion. Let's make a note of it while Ginny's mid-yawn. Okay. Oop, I didn't really want to do that. I wanted to keep looking, but first... It looks like layers of thick canvas with a rubber lining. I've never seen anything like it before. But applying Mr. Sholmes' methods, you might deduce it's part of a raincoat worn by someone who really didn't want to get wet. And the charring must have occurred when the person was struck by lightning. Yes, of course, this all makes perfect sense. Alright, good talk, team. For some reason, the ground here is damaged in this spot. Look, almost as if there was a fire here or something. Yes, if you look closely, there's some scattered ash and burnt embers. Well, I suppose there was a big explosion just above here. People probably wouldn't bat an eyelid if a small fire would have been. I'm not sure we English are quite that laid back, Runa. A Crystal Tower. It's certainly an apt name. It was built to be the focal point of the exhibition, and it definitely is, being so tall and with all that glass. Can't imagine building anything like this, ever being erected in Japan. There are a lot of exhibits inside the tower as well, apparently. Of course, there's an observation deck, but that is also an art gallery, a zoo, and a museum. But I heard you have to queue for 3 hours just to get through the door. Well, at the moment, the shattered glass from the failed experiment may well be the biggest draw. And thanks to that accident, the whole tower is shut. Suddenly, it's not the Crystal Tower anymore, but the Crystal Glass Shower. Apparently, everyone's taking to the skies now to look down on the disaster from above instead. But there's a 3-hour queue to go up in a balloon. Londoners must be very patient people. Oh, yeah. This platform has been set up for the experiment, I suppose. It's very high. About 30 feet above the ground, apparently. That's what a policeman I just spoke to said. I don't really understand feet very well. We don't use them in Japan. Oh, yes, sorry. It's about 9 meters. But soon you'll have been in London a year, Runo. It's time you get used to our measurements. Yes, well, this thing's so tall, the spectators at the front would just have seen the wall and nothing else. They probably thought they'd secured the best spot to watch from, only to be disappointed. There's a saying in Japan, the darkest spot is right under the lighthouse. I feel like it probably applies here. Fucking nerds. That's where the cove ended up after his instant kinesis, or whatever they call it. Dead, of course. And yet they're calling the experiment a success. That's what the wooden scaffold they used for. The coppers, our lads, set up that after the incident happened. To get the body down, I think. Dunno, really. Didn't you help to erect the scaffold? Nah, lookout duty's more my thing. Wandering around the exhibition, keeping a lookout for the fun stuff. Mind Gregsy doesn't hear you saying that, or he'll give you the boot. It's incredible, though, isn't it? I mean, could the victim really have bridged that gap by some sort of invisible kinesis? Alright. Let's go upstairs. No? Not from here? So I already looked at the tower. Do you want me to look at the fucking stairs? I guess so. These stairs obviously lead to the stage. We should go up there and investigate the exact spot. Amazing. So that's it, is it? The machine that blew up. Oh, it must have been a magnificent explosion, and I've seen my fair share. You've seen things like this before, you mean? Of course! Hurley's always doing experiments that end with a bang. In fact, in his own words, explosions are the very essence of chemistry. Ah, that might explain the smell of burning that frequently comes wafting up. One time, he made something that exploded with such force it took the roof off the building. I wish you'd been there to see it, Runo. It's hard to get too excited about that, given that I now live in the roof. Well, anyway, that's enough about that. It's time to investigate. Ah, look, Gregson is there. He seems to be deep in thought about something whilst eyeing up the machine. Really? He just looks confused to me. What you doing? It ripped itself apart magnificently, didn't it? Magnificently and mercilessly. So someone stands in the middle of the machine to be disassembled and then beamed through the air. Yes, beamed. Not blasted, that's the point. Yes, that part's crucial, really. Is something like that even possible, though, Iris? Oh, Runo, I'm just a child. How should I know? A child when it suits you, you mean? From what I can tell, I think if you were to pull this lever here... Stop! Don't touch that! Ah, that was practically instantaneous kinesis the way you flew over here just now. Please, your ladyship. I didn't mean to startle you, but I can't let you touch anything up here. So sorry, you can have some of my latest special blend to make up for it. Fuck, I'll sip too.
Ah, wonderful. This stuff really is wonderful.
It's just like old times. We're representing Professor Harebrain in court tomorrow, Inspector. We should be allowed to examine the scene.
Ha! Listen, Sunshine. Even I'm not allowed to touch anything up here. It's that blasted Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act to blame. It's driving me potty.
Oh yes, that special dispensation.
More red tape's all we need. I don't know what the government thinks it's playing at sometimes.
But we're allowed to just look, aren't we?
Eh?
Surely that's alright, isn't it, Grexy?
Course, your ladyship. Anything you say, your ladyship. But please, don't get your dainty hands dirty, will ya?
Don't worry. We wouldn't dream of touching anything, would we, Runo? She really knows how to get what she wants. Well, let's chat. First, that's not the chat button. Using high voltage electricity to disassemble a man's body and then beam him across the crystal tower. It's an extraordinary thing to attempt, especially in public.
True, it was by far the most unusual of the experiments planned for the exhibition, mind.
To be honest, I'm a bit surprised it was allowed. Carrying out something so dangerous, so many spectators, I mean.
The government's doing everything it can to promote new science and technology at the moment. They're more worried about being ahead of the time than be able to spot public safety infringements. If they can be the first to develop some new technology, it makes Britain even more powerful in the future, you see.
Yes, I suppose that's true, in a way.
So, the powers that be are placing a heavy emphasis on scientists' rights at the moment.
What sort of rights?
They're making it so any theories the brains remain their legal property, as it were. Right through developing it into a practical idea and even going into production. Which is the infuriating reason us coppers aren't allowed to touch the crime scene. Because the new highfalutin Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act forbids it.
Ah, I see.
The only people with permission to investigate here for some brand new division at the Yard. The Forensic Investigation Team, it's called. We've been relegated to keeping guard.
The Forensic Investigation.
Any old fool can see that this scrap of metal was a sham to begin with. But just because it says scientific equipment on the paperwork, we can't do a flaming thing with it.
Poor Gregsy. He's very head up. What? What did you say? He's very het up, isn't he? Oh. Alright. Remind me again, what's this new legal act means if we're not allowed to touch the scene here?
Are you having at me, sunshine? It's the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act.
Yes, I think Hurley mentioned that recently, with a real twinkle in his eyes.
I'm sure he did, your ladyship, I'm sure he did. Passed especially for his great exhibition it was. All scientists have to do is present their ideas or inventions to some suits in the civil service. And if it gets rubber stamped, that's a guarantee of rights to maintain the invention's confidentiality.
What does that really mean?
Think about it. Think of all the world-changing new inventions on display every day here at this exhibition. Though a good half of them are a good load of cobblers, if you ask me. Put forward by shammers like yourself.
Thanks for that. Oh, I love how absurd some of the inventions here are. It's also fun.
Might be fun for you, as a member of the force has to be present at every single demonstration. Can you imagine, eh? Hang science, that's what I say.
Oh, I don't think so. That sounds like my dream job.
You'd soon think otherwise after spending a day guarding all these shammers' bogus contraptions.
But if they're all bogus, how can anyone help to demonstrate them? There'd be no point.
Yeah, well, there is a point, sadly. Sorry. Thanks to another of our government's bright ideas, if any theory or invention is deemed to show potential, the government hands out a research grant.
The scientists get funding.
Exactly, and that's what they're all after. All these shammers coming from far and wide to clog up Hyde Park. And who has to keep them all safe, eh? Who has to smile politely and welcome them? Us coppers, that's who. So you can see now why I say it now, can't you? Hang science. Hang it.
Oh, maybe I can see your point. Apparently, Professor Harebrained lives and works in Germany now, conducting his research.
That's right. Came back to Britain especially for the Great Exhibition, as I understand it.
Probably after one of the government's research grants. Actually, we learned something else about the professor, about his time in further education. Turns out he was at university with someone we both know, Lord von Zykes.
Yeah? What's that? That's news to me. But if von Zykes mans the prosecution, and he's the accused, the professor's fate is
sealed, because the Reaper will have him one way or another.
Blimey, that man's beyond me. I don't know what goes on in that head of his.
Talking of von Zykes, this morning's papers ran the story of him being attacked. Read that? Oh yeah, but Mr. Reaper is completely fine, nothing to worry about.
Yeah, right, glad to hear it. Still, the Reaper, eh? As long as that business gonna keep up, I wonder.
The victim of this case, the investor, he was another of the Reaper's victims, so I've heard.
Lord Barak von Zykes is a top-class prosecutor, but even he can't always get the right verdict, though. Sometimes justice can't win.
Yes, I've heard about jurors being bribed and evidence being falsified. And that's how the notion of the Reaper of the Bailey came about, isn't it?
Obviously. Scotland Yard suspected von Zykes initially. We all assumed he was taking matters into his own hands if he failed to seal the deal.
Although the man himself denies that charge.
Well, we've done a very thorough investigation, and the conclusion we reached is that von Zykes is in no way related to the deaths of those outside the courtroom. There's no question in my mind. I'd stake my reputation on it.
But if that's true, then how do you explain it? All those defendants couldn't just have coincidentally died if nobody killed them.
I know that, but I can't explain it. It's a mystery, after all, isn't it? That's the whole point of the Reaper.
Professor Harebrained mentioned something else. He said that at the university, von Zykes was a totally different person, easygoing and kind.
You what?
He said it was after they both graduated that something happened. Do you have any idea what it was?
No clue.
Really?
Look, I've got my hands full watching over this frustrating crime scene. Why don't you go and make a nuisance of yourself somewhere else?
One of you will have to tell us something eventually. Alright, what's going on? Nothing. Okay, fine. What's going on right here? Considering how badly damaged everything is, Professor Hairbrain was lucky to escape unscathed. We should have a good look around the machine while we can.
Touch anything, and I'll make sure I kill you before I get strung up myself, you hear?
I won't touch a thing, I promise. Please, spare a thought for your digestion. Anyway, do you really think this machine could actually disassemble people?
He asks, looking totally incredulous. Give it a rest, sunshine. If we were allowed to examine all this bleeding scrap metal, maybe we could have that answer that question. But we can't, can we?
Because of the annoying rules.
Exactly. The annoying, obstructive, flaming rules.
Oh, look at the base of the machine there. Oh yes, there's a tool of some kind poking through the wire mesh. It's a screwdriver, I think. Oh, isn't it a lovely one? The handle is in the shape of a capital letter A. Is it? It is? Oh, you're right.
What's the matter with you? Don't touch anything. Touch anything, I'll make sure I kill you before I get strung up myself, I said.
Yes, I understand. Sorry. I only touched it a teeny weeny bit. But Gregsy, I'm very curious about this screwdriver. Really very, very curious.
Of course, your ladyship. You're so clever, your ladyship. Fancy spotting something like this. But I'm afraid I can't let you have it.
But Runo found it first.
I assure you, I'll investigate it thoroughly.
He's gone off with it. That was very mean, I'm afraid. Inspector Gregson is going to make a very clumsy and embarrassing mistake in next month's installment. Poor Gregsy.
Right, are you done here, Mr. Naruto? Sorry? Isn't it about time you were leaving? Or rather, it is about time you were leaving. That lot are here now.
That lot?
The forensic investigation team. They'll be giving me the evo in a minute too.
Oh dear, poor Gregsy. Here, have another cup of special blend to cheer you up.
Ah, that hit the spot. Yep, it's it every time.
Well, at least I've seen this scene with my own two eyes. It looks like this is as far as we're going to get with our investigations here. I've been thinking... Hurley might know something, mightn't he? About what? About Mr. Reaper. About what happened to Von Zykes? Because it sounds like something very significant occurred after he graduated. Something that completely changed his life. Maybe, but I have no idea where to find Sholmes. He's in the middle of some big case, isn't he? Here! This is what you need. What's this? Some kind of entrance ticket? Madame Tuspels? Was this supposed to mean something to me? You don't know it? It's the most popular attraction in London. It's very close to Baker Street, actually. We could go now if you like. No, we don't have time for visiting attractions today. We have a big trial. But that's where Hurley is. What? At this particular London attraction? Yes. How is it you know where he is? Hurley told me, but he told me to keep it a secret, Runo. Madame Tuspels? I don't see how it could be related to the case we're investigating, but then stranger things have happened, and when they happen, Sholmes is usually at the heart of them. Well, thanks, Gregsy. Let's make a move.